Here is an important detail. People with body integrity dysphoria are remarkably precise. They do not say, in some vague general way, that they wish they were disabled. They say, this leg, the left one, ending here, about a hand's width above the knee. Not the right leg, not both legs, not higher, not lower. This is the exact line. And for many people, that line remains unchanged throughout their entire lives. What could explain that level of precision? A theory based entirely on attention-seeking cannot account for such a stable anatomical boundary. Neither can a theory centered entirely on sexual desire. That precision points towards the body itself and towards the way the brain represents which limbs belong to us. Many people with BID also describe a moment when the desire seemed to take shape. Often, it began with a childhood encounter. They saw an amputee perhaps only once and felt an immediate sense of recognition.
That is how my body is supposed to be.
At this point, the explanation seems to move elsewhere, towards images, memory, psychology, and the social world. We already have two parts of the puzzle: the brain's internal map of the body, and an image powerful enough to become part of the self. So, where does BD belong? In the brain? In the mind? In culture? In the last episode, we traced the history of its names. Today, we move beneath those names and examine the explanations behind them. The answer crosses all three domains. The body is stranger than we usually allow. It is biological, imagined, felt, and shaped through the world around us. The boundary between brain, mind, and culture runs directly through it. This is Contested Bodies. I'm Leandro Loriga. Welcome to episode 3, Mapping the Body. Welcome back to Contested Bodies. For anyone joining us here, episodes 1 and 2 trace the history of body integrity dysphoria. We followed how the desire of physically healthy people to acquire a disability moved over nearly half a century through several medical explanations. Episode 2 ended with an unresolved problem. Medicine recognizes the condition, yet there is still no settled explanation for what causes it and no agreed clinical pathway for treating it. Today, we take the first part of that problem. What causes BID? What is happening in the body and mind of the person who experiences it? Medicine often searches for a clear cause. A pathogen, a gene, a lesion, a single mechanism capable of explaining the whole condition. BID has resisted that kind of answer. The evidence instead points towards a convergence. Neurological factors may shape how the body is represented. Psychological factors may shape the images, memories, and meanings attached to it. And the social world may shape how people understand bodies, disability, and themselves. I describe these as codeterminants. That means they may act together, with each one contributing something to the condition. The concept that holds them together is embodiment. Embodiment means that the human body is biological, felt, imagined, acted through, and situated within a social world. That is the territory we are mapping today. We begin with the brain. The neurological account begins with the puzzle from our cold open. The precision of the desired amputation line. People with BAD often identify one particular limb, one side of the body, and one exact point. That precision led researchers towards the way the brain represents the body. The brain maintains an internal model of which body parts exist, where they are, how they move, and which ones feel like our own. We often call this a body map. It is not stored as a single picture. It is produced through several connected regions of the brain working together. Studies involving people with BID have found differences in the frontoparietal network, particularly in areas of the right parietal cortex. In plain language, these parts of the brain help combine touch, movement, vision, and bodily position into the experience of ownership. This is my body. This limb belongs to me. The neurological hypothesis proposes that, in BID, the affected limb may be insufficiently integrated into this representation. The leg is physically present, the nerves work, The person can see it, move it, and feel it being touched. Yet the limb may remain weakly connected to the person's felt sense of bodily ownership. This could help explain several features of BID. The precise amputation line may reflect the organization of the body map. The early onset may relate to the period in which bodily representation is developing. Its stability across decades may reflect how resistant these systems are to conscious effort. A person cannot change a deeply established body map through willpower alone. This could also help explain how someone can recognize a limb as physically present and functional, while still experiencing it as alien. Knowing that a limb is attached to you and experiencing that limb as part of you involve different processes. In BD, those processes may fall out of alignment. There is another layer to the neurological findings. The limb may be weakly integrated into the body map, yet the experience also carries a powerful emotional charge. When people with BD look at or imagine their desired body with the limb absent, the brain may respond differently from when they confront the body they currently have. This creates a practical difficulty. If the desire is connected to bodily representation, while also being shaped by psychological and social factors, there is no obvious switch for medicine to turn off. Medication has no clearly established biological target. Psychotherapy may help with anxiety, shame, or depression, yet it has not reliably removed the central desire. Neurosurgery would be highly speculative and dangerous. There is currently no straightforward way to medicate someone into a different body map. As we saw earlier in the series, participants in Michael First's study who had tried therapy or psychiatric medication generally reported that the desire remained. The neurological account offers one possible reason. It still leaves part of the experience unexplained. Many people with BID describe a childhood encounter, an image, or a moment of recognition. They saw an amputee, someone using crutches, or a body configured differently, and the image stayed with them. Many people with BID describe a deep, almost involuntary fascination with a particular kind of body. The amputated body, the body moving with crutches, a wheelchair or a prosthesis, or the visible absence of a limb. For some, this fascination can be traced back to an early encounter. It did not fade like an ordinary memory. It acquired emotional force. It became connected to how the person imagined their own body. To understand how this can happen, I draw on the cognitive science of mental imagery. A mental image is more than a faint picture in the mind. It can contain elements of sight, touch, movement, and bodily sensation. Imagining an action can partially activate some of the same perceptual and motor systems involved in performing it. Imagine lifting a heavy suitcase. You are sitting still, yet you can almost feel the weight in your hand, the tension in your arm, and the effort in your shoulder. Mental imagery is embodied. It can be felt, rehearsed, and strengthened over time. I call the response described by some people with BID a possible overemphatic reaction. By that, I mean a reaction far more intense than the situation would normally produce. Imagine two children seeing the same man walking with crutches. One notices him and moves on. The other feels an immediate fascination. The image returns later. The child begins to imagine moving in the same way, using the same crutches and inhabiting the same kind of body. The encounter begins to feel less like observing another person and more like recognizing something about oneself. For a predisposed person, the impaired body may then be internalized as a powerful mental image. Because mental imagery can reactivate perceptual and motor systems, that image may begin to function as a bodily template, a felt sense of how one's own body should look, move, and feel. Over time, the desire begins to organize itself around that image, this body, this form, this way of moving through the world. There is a complication. The childhood encounter may not have been the original cause of the desire. It may have become important later when the person looked back and searched for a beginning. Memory rarely works like a recording. We return to certain moments, give them meaning, and use them to explain experiences whose origins are difficult to locate. It began when I saw that man on crutches is easier to understand than I have felt this for as long as I can remember, and I do not know why. The encounter may therefore play several roles at once. It may contribute to the desire, give it a recognizable image, become a symbol of it, or provide a story through which the person can explain it. This makes the memory significant, although it also limits what we can prove from it. Here, the psychological and neurological accounts begin to meet. The neurological model gives us a body map in which a limb may be weakly integrated. The psychological model gives that mismatch an image and a form. To understand how an image can enter the felt body so deeply, we need the central distinction of this episode: body image and body schema. Body image is the body you can think about. It includes how you picture your body, how you judge its shape and appearance, what its different parts mean to you, and whether they feel attractive, embarrassing, excessive, damaged, right or wrong. When you look in a mirror, imagine how other people see you, or think that one part of your body should be different. You are working through body image. It is the body as an object of awareness, interpretation, and judgment. Body schema works more quietly. It is the flexible system that allows you to move without calculating every movement in advance. It combines posture, balance, touch, position, and movement into a practical sense of where your body is and what it can do. When you duck under a low doorway, reach for a cup without measuring the distance, or adjust your balance when a tram suddenly moves, your body schema is doing the work. You rarely stop to inspect it. It operates in the background, beneath deliberate thought. Body image is the body you can picture and judge. Body schema is the body through which you act. Under ordinary conditions, body image and body schema work together. Your conscious sense of your body broadly agrees with the practical system that guides its movement. You rarely notice either one because they cooperate in the background. They can, however, drift apart. Trauma can disturb them. Neurological condition can alter them. Tools can extend them. Repeated habits can reshape them. One proposal is that BID involves a disturbance in this relationship. The person's body image may represent the proper body as one without the unwanted limb. The body schema continues to operate the body that physically exists. It walks with two legs, balances with two legs, reaches with two arms, and adjusts every movement around the limb that is present. The person therefore lives inside a disagreement. The limb remains present in movement and action. The body schema continues to use it. Within the person's conscious and felt image of the proper body, the limb has no place. That is the mismatch. It gives us one way of understanding dysphoria through embodiment. The language of identity alone cannot describe the full experience. BID involves several layers of bodily representation: conscious and pre-reflective, imagined and enacted. The person understands physical reality. They know the limb is there. They know it works. The body they inhabit and the body they experience as properly theirs fail to coincide. An objection worth noting. Surely body image and body schema are stable. We have a fixed number of limbs with fixed lengths and positions. The brain records that anatomy and gets on with the job. The evidence suggests something more flexible. Our bodily representation are continually updated through sight, touch, movement, habit, and the objects we use. 3 examples help explain how this works. The first is tool use. Pick up a hammer, a rake, or a long brush and use it for several minutes. At first, it feels like an object held in your hand. As you become accustomed to it, you begin to move as though your reach extends all the way to its tip. You do not calculate the length of the rake every time you move it around a chair or through a doorway. Your body adjusts. Experiments have found that tool use can temporarily alter how people perceive the reach and dimensions of their own arms. The brain updates the body schema to accommodate an object that has become part of the action. Now, consider BID. A crutch, wheelchair, or brace is also a tool. For a person who pretends to have a disability, however, it carries a particular significance. It allows them to practice inhabiting the body they desire. A crutch changes balance, posture, rhythm, and the use of the limbs. A wheelchair changes movement, eye level, reach, and the relationship between the body and the surrounding space. A brace can limit one part of the body while forcing others to compensate. These devices therefore do more than produce an appearance. They create a different bodily experience. Using them can become a perceptual rehearsal of the desired body. The second example is the rubber hand illusion. A person sits with one hand hidden from view. A rubber hand is placed in front of them. The researcher then strokes the hidden hand and the visible rubber hand at the same time and in the same rhythm. After a short period, many participants begin to experience the rubber hand as part of their own body. If the researcher suddenly threatens it with a hammer or knife, the person may react as though their biological hand were in danger. Some participants also report that the hidden hand feels less present or slightly detached. Synchronous sight and touch have persuaded the brain to reorganize bodily ownership. A foreign object has entered the felt body, while the biological hand has temporarily receded from experience. Bodily ownership is constructed and can be altered. A hand made of rubber can acquire the feeling of mine. A living hand can briefly lose some of that feeling. The border of the body is therefore less fixed than common sense suggests. The third example, pretending behavior. Recall the pretender from previous episode. This is someone who uses a wheelchair, crutches, braces, or another assistive device without physically needing it. They may do this privately, sometimes for years, because it brings them closer to the body they feel they should have. Pretending may function as a rehearsal. The person sees themselves in the desired bodily configuration. Their posture changes, their balance changes, they move through space differently. They may stop using the unwanted limb or conceal it from view. The device affects the body schema through movement. The visual result affects the body image. Imagine someone who wants to lose a leg. At home, they bind that leg behind them and move with crutches. For a time, the body they see and the body they feel come closer together. The distress eases. That relief can reinforce the behavior. The person is more likely to repeat it, and each repetition may give the desired body greater familiarity and emotional force. A possible loop begins to form. Sight strengthens the mental image. Altered movement engages the body schema. The assistive device changes how the body meets the surrounding world. Relief gives the whole experience a reward. I argue that sight plays a central role in this process. BAD cannot be located within one region of the brain and left there. The experience may also be rehearsed through vision, movement, assistive tools, and repeated simulation. The body is continually adjusted through experience. Once we recognize how bodily experience is shaped by what we see, how we move, and how others perceive us, the explanation expands beyond neurology and individual psychology. It enters the social world. So far, we have kept the discussion mostly inside the individual. The brain, mental imagery, pretending behavior, body image, and body schema. Now, we need to widen the frame. Human beings learn who they are through other people. The way we experience ourselves, including our bodies, is shaped by attention, judgment, imitation, approval, rejection, and the expectation of the world around us. I draw here on a long tradition in sociology and social psychology. The self develops through three connected processes. First, we imagine how we appear to other people. Then, we imagine how they judge what they see. Finally, we experience emotion in response to that imagined judgment. Pride, confidence, shame, embarrassment, or humiliation. Imagine walking into a room wearing something unfamiliar. You begin to notice yourself through the reactions you expect from others. Are they looking? Do they approve? Do you appear confident, attractive, ridiculous, or out of place? Nobody needs to say anything. their imagined judgment has already entered your experience of yourself. We carry an audience inside us. George Herbert Mead, an American philosopher and social psychologist associated with the University of Chicago, studied how language, social interaction, and shared rules allow a person to become aware of themselves as a self. Mead called the wider perspective of society the generalized other. As we grow up, we absorb the expectation of the community around us, how a person should behave, which bodies are considered normal, which differences attract admiration or discomfort, and which identities are recognized. We learn to see ourselves from that shared social perspective, even when nobody else is physically present. The felt body develops inside this social world. It carries the marks of its time, place, culture, and relationships. Our sense of who we are is assembled partly from how others see us, how we imagine they see us, and the bodily forms our culture makes available to us. The link to BAD lies in the social life of the body. A body is made of flesh, nerves, and bones. It also carries posture, visibility, beauty, shame, admiration, disgust, normality, and difference. We inhabit our bodies and other people read them. An impaired body can therefore become more than a medical condition. It can become an image, a social position, a way of moving through the world, and a possible form of identity. Modernity changes the condition under which identity is built. In more traditional societies, people often inherited stronger frameworks of meaning through family, religion, community, class, and established social roles. These structures could be restrictive or oppressive, yet they gave the individual a recognizable place within the world. Modern and postmodern societies loosen many of those inherited structures. The individual is increasingly expected to define themselves, build themselves, present themselves, improve themselves, and explain themselves. Anthony Giddens, a British sociologist known for his work on modernity and identity, described this as the reflexive project of the self. The self becomes an ongoing task. You are expected to construct it, maintain it, present it, and revise it as your life changes. Images play an increasing role in that process. We learn what bodies can mean through film, advertising, social media, medicine, disability culture, and the people we encounter. We absorb bodily forms, compare ourselves with them, and sometimes recognize ourselves within them. For someone predisposed to BID, the image of an impaired body may become part of the material from which the self is built. This brings us to the most speculative part of the explanation: postmodernity. I have written extensively about the postmodern condition, and I will save the full argument for another occasion. For this episode, one feature is enough: the weakening of shared frameworks and the growing power of images in the construction of the self. Postmodernity is a difficult word for a fairly recognizable experience. In earlier societies, identity was often shaped more formally by family, religion, class, profession, community, and inherited social roles. These structures could be oppressive, restrictive, and unjust. They also told people with considerable force who they were expected to be. In contemporary society, those frameworks have become less stable. People are increasingly expected to define themselves, present themselves, improve themselves, and explain themselves. Identity becomes an ongoing project. The body enters that project as something to shape, display, measure, and revise. Images play a central role in this process. We encounter bodies through advertising, cinema, pornography, social media, medical photography, fitness culture, disability communities, and endless forms of online self-presentation. Often, the image arrives before direct experience. A person may have seen hundreds of amputated bodies, prosthetic limbs, wheelchairs, and altered forms of movement before ever meeting an amputee in ordinary life. Jean Baudrillard, a French sociologist and philosopher who wrote about consumer society, media, and the power of science, developed one of the clearest accounts of this world. He used the terms simulacrum and hyperreality. A simulacrum is an image that begins to live independently of whatever it once represented. It circulates, acquires meaning, and shapes desire without requiring a stable original behind it. Hyperreality describes a culture in which images, models, and representation become more influential than direct experience. Think of a heavily edited photograph of the ideal body. The body in the image may never have existed in that exact form. It may be filtered, posed, altered, and selected from hundreds of attempts. Yet people compare themselves with it, desire it, and sometimes undergo surgery to approach it. The image becomes socially effective even when its connection to ordinary bodies is weak. The same process can apply to disability. An impaired body can become an image detached from the daily experience of pain, dependence, frustration, adaptation, and social barriers. What remains visible may be the form itself. The missing limb, the prosthesis, the crutches, the wheelchair, the altered movement. For a person already predisposed to BD, that image may acquire unusual force. It can offer a recognizable bodily form. It can become a template. It can provide the person with a way to picture a body that feels more coherent than the one they currently inhabit. I present this as a cultural contribution, not as a complete explanation of BID. This is where the postmodern account joins the neurological and psychological ones. The brain provides the capacity for bodily representation. Mental imagery gives a desired body, sensory, and emotional force. The surrounding culture supplies the images through which that body can be imagined. Here, the postmodern account connects directly with BD. Earlier, we examined how an impaired body can become a powerful mental image, the amputated body. The body using crutches, the body in a wheelchair, the body moving through the world in a different way. In an image-saturated culture, a person no longer needs to encounter that body directly. The image can arrive through television, film, social media, online communities, medical photographs, or pornography. It can be repeated, idealized, rehearsed, and gradually absorbed. I have argued elsewhere that postmodern culture may provide the material through which a predisposed person gives form to the desire. It supplies the image. It supplies the bodily possibility. It supplies a recognizable shape for an experience that may previously have been vague or difficult to name. The self is already treated as something to construct, manage, display, and revise. The body becomes one of the main places where that work takes place. Cosmetic surgery offers a familiar comparison. Media images help create ideals of thinness, muscularity, youth, symmetry, and sexual attractiveness. People compare themselves with those images and sometimes undergo surgery to make their bodies resemble them. The same cultural machinery can operate around other bodily forms. For a person predisposed to BD, the impaired body may acquire the force of an ideal. The missing limb, the prosthesis, the crutches, or the wheelchair can become part of the body through which the person imagines themselves as complete. The claim remains speculative. Image culture cannot explain why one person develops BID while millions of others encounter the same images and feel nothing similar. It can help explain how a predisposition acquires content, form, and direction. Time now to draw our conclusions. We began with a puzzle. A desire precise enough to identify one limb and one exact anatomical line, yet often remembered through an image encountered in childhood. The three explanations lead us back to the same body. Neurology points towards a body map in which one limb may be weakly integrated. Psychology shows how an emotionally charged image can give that mismatch a particular form. The social account places that image inside a world where identity is shaped through other people, cultural meanings, and the bodies we repeatedly see. Body image and body schema give us a way to understand how these forces may meet. One concerns the body we picture, interpret, and recognize as ours. The other guides the body through movement and action. In BID, those layers may fall out of alignment. Embodiment brings the whole account together. The body is continually shaped through sensation, memory, imagination, movement, habit, tools, and the gaze of others. Biology gives it structure, while experience gives it form and meaning. BID makes that process unusually visible. In the next episode of Contested Bodies, we turn to the comparison between body integrity dysphoria and gender dysphoria. Both involve a persistent and non-delusional mismatch between the physical body and the experienced self. Medicine has built clinics, protocols, professional guidance, and funded pathways around one of these conditions. The other has a diagnostic code and very little else. What explains that asymmetry? Does it rest on an ethically relevant difference or on the different histories and institutions that developed around the two conditions? That is where we go next. I am Leandro Loriga. This has been Contested Bodies. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and follow Contested Bodies wherever you listen. Contested Bodies is independently written, produced and hosted by me, Leandro Loriga. The podcast receives no institutional funding or external financial support. This initiative was born from a desire to make invisible lives visible and examine the gray zones of medicine and the human condition. You can support the research, production, and future episodes through the donation link in the description. I'm Leandro Loriga. This has been Contested Bodies. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.